Ian.
Hello, Dave.
And
we did it again. Dave. We've tricked someone into coming onto our dumb little show.
Yes, we have.
It's Chris Rosales, who is an author and photographer for Car Bibles, which is a great sort of newish website on the scene. And we're so excited to have you.
Hey guys, nice to be here. Like super excited. It's our first podcast ever. I can't believe it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no.
Thank you, and we're sorry for that.
Yeah.
This is gonna be dope. This is gonna be an excellent show. I'm excited.
All right. So you kind of came to our attention because you published this really great article maybe a week or so ago called "Let Us Have Our Car Culture," and it's on Car Bibles, and it talks about a specific instance of kind of culture clash in Austin, Texas, between a lowrider car show and some of the new residents that are living in Austin. And
right.
It touches on all these really cool themes that Dave and I have talked about a lot on this show. And so we're super excited to dive into this. And I just want to, before I have you talk about kind of the genesis of this article and kind of what you were trying to do with it, I just want to say that, gentrification is something that I think a lot about, living really close to downtown Denver as I do, and having lived in urban sort of centers my whole adult life, despite having grown up in the suburbs. It's something that's always sort of at the front of my mind. And obviously car culture is too. And I had never seen that connection made so explicitly before. So I just really appreciate that, because it kind of like set off all these other sort of tangents for me of like other ways that you could kind of approach that comparison. So I just really appreciated that in general.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a culture clash that's been a long time coming, right? People, especially with car culture, because it's so rambunctious. It's so in your face, especially with, giant 70s, 60s slabs running around, dragging sparks, doing fun stuff. You know what I mean? It's such a culture clash. And it's every time you get on the road, you're imposing yourself upon the world. You're threatening the world with your energy, with your car. You know what I mean? Whatever you're driving, like in my GTI, I'm like, I have a take, I'm just going, I'm just, making turbo noises everywhere. Same thing with lowriders, same thing with everyone else. The car culture is part of general culture. People love cars. Everyone uses cars. People hate cars, even for the matter. Where it gets really interesting is when certain kinds of cars get associated with cultures. And for example, here is lowriders, and people associate lowriders with Chicano culture. Very explicitly, it's Chicano culture from East Los Angeles, which is Mexican Americans, first generation, generally Mexican Americans, though by now there's like second, third, fourth generation Chicanos in Los Angeles. And in Austin, right, we have this article by Texas Monthly where you have this lowrider show that's been going on for decades, since the 90s, 80s even probably. And you have these new residents in this, shiny new apartment building, all nice luxury homes, luxury condos, air quotes around that. And you have this gathering of people who love their cars, who love their family, who love their culture, being looked down upon by the residents of this building. And that's one thing, if you hate the noise and all that stuff. What really set me off was when I was reading the quotes from one particular resident, I forget if she's named or not, where she says, "Oh, it's so clear that they're selling drugs there." Right. And that's just such a dog whistle. It's insane how that actually like made me like, it like triggered me. It was so interesting. I was just like, unbelievable how that made me feel, where it's just, they look at a certain kind of car and a certain kind of person, they automatically assume bad things must be happening.
Well, and I just want to point out too that like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to read the quote, because I think the quote is really telling, right? Like the phrasing of it is really telling, because it wasn't like she presented some sort of like oh, I saw this and this happen, and so I think there might be drugs happening.
No,
there.
the phrasing's unbelievable. Yeah, no, you read it out. It's
yeah, the phrasing is, you can't tell me drugs aren't being distributed over there.
Right.
She huffed. The brazenness of it all just kills me.
Right.
It's just reading that. Even now, that was the line I read that took my breath away and made me want to write about it. And made me want to write about it. And made me like realize it's been so many years of me going to car shows, you know, as a young enthusiast who my parents weren't into cars. I was teaching myself with primarily video games, but every time I got to like see a car show or people who thought knew I was a car guy and they weren't that really car people, they were being nice and they're like, let's go to this car show. I go to this boomer ass car show with a bunch of hot rods and stuff, which is cool. You know, all respect. I love it. It's just that when I roll up and I get those eyeballs on me and I get that look and I get that certain feeling in the air of like, what is this kid doing here? And that triggered such just a breathtaking response for me that I'm just like, I need to get this out. It's just such a thing I've been brewing on. It's exactly the same thing we're talking about. It's the intersection of car culture and actual culture and gentrification and how that's going to affect us moving forward. And it is. I mean, it already has been, even amongst Latino or even Black car culture. It's just when you have gentrifiers rolling in, they said, we don't want cars anymore. We don't want loud GT3s or stuff like that. It's happening kind of everywhere.
I think that like one of the ways that this typically goes wrong, in addition to like the person reacting like this lady did, where she said, you can't tell me that there aren't drugs over there, right? Like that, like it just where she's basically saying like, I see Black and brown people and I associate them with crime and bad things.
With crime and bad things.
Right. So like, in addition to that whole like insane, awful dog whistle shit that happens, right?
And just telling on yourself.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Saying, look at me, I'm racist. Like,
right. Yeah. They have the dog whistle and they're also blowing a real whistle that is them being racist. Right. Yeah. So besides that, I think it's also coupled with a person's like sense of entitlement, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so like where, like if you kind of look at the difference between adding diversity to a neighborhood, which is fantastic, right? Amazing things come out of that, right? Versus like the negative aspects that come with gentrification. When somebody enters a neighborhood when they are increasing the diversity of it, right? Whether it's white to black, brown, however this triangulates, right? But they bring some entitlement where they say like, now that I'm here, this neighborhood can't look like that, right?
Right.
That is another way that this goes completely wrong. And I'd like to call out that like, when you, Chris, went to the Boomer Auto Show, you didn't have a sense of entitlement of only wanting to see the things that you thought you should see there, right? You took what you saw and you were like, okay, like I'm enjoying this for what it is, right?
Right.
And this Karen that's ranting about like seeing lowriders and letting her racism out, right? Like she has this entitlement of not seeing that stuff across the street from her, right?
And I mean, I guess the easiest way to say that is the colonizer mindset. Is it that? Like, is it just, you go in and you occupy and you, instead of building a bridge, being part of a community,
right?
Which is a huge problem, in gentrification, is that you have people coming in, they pay whatever money to rent or buy a condo there. And they're like, sick, this is all mine now, instead of,
right.
And it reflects really heavily for me in the issue of homelessness, actually, especially in Los Angeles, where you have four homeless people dying a day in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's unbelievable, the numbers. And the problem is you have all these people moving in to high-end housing in downtown, or even just in satellite areas of downtown, West Side, Silver Lake, Echo Park, Arts District, even East LA. And they see homeless people in the street and they're just like, I just want this problem to go away. They don't reach out. They don't talk. They don't say hello, offer them a drink. You know what I mean? Whatever. They just say, I don't want to see this.
Right.
I don't want to be a part of this. This is not my thing.
And yet low cost housing can't be in my neighborhood. Like all of this NIMBY not in my backyard stuff. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Put Section 8 somewhere else.
Right.
And
right.
Even then, if we're going to bring it straight forward to real big issues, that just recently there was a huge kerfuffle in Echo Park where they displaced a couple hundred homeless people via the use of 400, a small army of LAPD, which is like, okay. And you have Mitch O'Farrell, council member for that district, saying that, it was just there to help the transition, to help move these people to housing. And it's like, right. Yeah. So you need 400 cops and 5 helicopters to do that. And it's the same thing with this lady. She sees that and she's like, well, let's get these people out of here at all costs. I don't want this here. I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it. Right. I don't want these people here. Right. It's similar sort of thing. It's straight NIMBY behavior. It's to boil it down to that. And it's just absurd. It's like, you know.
Well, I it's unfortunate that kind of sequence of events had to happen, but your article as a reaction to it is a positive addition to the dialogue of car culture and how it fits in culture as a whole. Mm-hmm. So that reaction is something that we're impressed by, and it's amazing. Like, we're truly thankful that those kinds of contributions are made in response to that, because it's powerful. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a great article. We suggest everyone read it. We're going to put it in the show notes, and we'll certainly, I think we've already tweeted a link out to it, because there's oftentimes where the thoughts that like the shower thoughts that we have in our heads, like then somebody comes along like you and just like fucking nails it, man. Like, just just get it. And we're like, oh yeah, like they said it way better than we ever could. That's why they're a goddamn writer. Like,
I mean, I am thankful to the entire team at Brookline, which is the company I work for, Car Bibles, which were sister site to The Drive, and that they gave me the latitude to write this kind of thing, because I could see when I was writing it, I was writing from the heart as just an individual, as a freelancer, and I'm like not thinking much about like, how does this look? But they value real journalism there, and they value real. Well, this is more of an op-ed than journalism, for being straight, but they value the truth and the truth of. And I spoke my truth here.
You absolutely did.
And it's a delicate subject too, and there was lots of places where you had a lot of opportunities to step on a landmine, and you managed not to. So that was really good.
I was a little worried about that, especially the bit where I was again back to the stepping into the white car show thing, the boomer car show. It's like that's where I particularly felt like I might get in real trouble here if people are like, oh, so hot rods are a problem for you, but not lowriders. It's like
all car shows matter. Right?
Just all lives matter, right? Yeah, exactly. We need another Malibu cars and coffee, or we need more air-cooled Porsches.
Right.
It's that thing, right? It's that thing where I feel like for a lot of my car enthusiast life, I've been struggling with being my own enthusiast and not being someone else's enthusiast. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where it's the things I like are the things I like, and somehow a lot of the time it doesn't line up, I guess. I don't know. And it's also, I kind of don't enjoy how we must like a thing and not just like all things. You know what I mean? Like, for someone who likes GT3s, they can't like lowriders. That kind of shit. Yeah. I mean, it's like, we could like both, not all cars have to corner. Not all cars have to be fast. Not all cars have to be luxurious. Not all cars have to be lightweight. It's just, they all exist and they're all pretty cool. Generally speaking.
We've always said, like, on the show, like, we are track rats. Like, that's what we love, what we do. We love karting, but like, we fully support like off-roaders and donks and like all the, like, somebody that does it just for the lulls, like, like everybody doing it for their reason. Like, and then on top of that, like, individuals that like normally wouldn't associate themselves as like car enthusiasts, like my wife has never associated herself as a car enthusiast, but she told me about amazing memories she had of driving her parents' VW Bugs, and her first car was like a Mustang, a 1965 Mustang, and like,
that's
and
pretty cool car,
right? And she's really picky about like the interior of her car and how it rides. It's like, you are an enthusiast. You are like, the enthusiast spectrum is not just like enthusiast for GT3s.
Oh yeah,
enthusiast for
that's one of my favorite ones. It's like where if you can't do your oil change, you're not an enthusiast, which is horseshit.
Right.
It's like, dude,
exactly.
you can be an enthusiast in so many ways. It's all these bullshit qualifiers to be an enthusiast. It's like, come on, guys, like seriously. And it's the main thing that keeps, women, people of color out of it, and that people use to disqualify certain groups of people.
Right.
And it's like, come on, like if you look at a car and it makes you feel something, you're an enthusiast. Like you like cars.
Right.
This is something we talk about a lot, like in the context of like online car culture, especially like the car forums, like the nonsense, like gatekeeping stuff that happens in car forums. And being a fellow Volkswagen owner, I know that you are familiar with the lovely utopia that is VW Vortex.
Oh God, jeez. Don't get me started, dude. And even worse are the VAGCOM forums, the VCDS forums, dude. It's just like, you don't know how to code a Mark 60 EC1 ABS module. You're not a real Volkswagen guy. It's like, dude, I'm asking for your help. Come on. It's like, and especially part of my job at Car Bibles is doing the actual Car Bible, which is compiling huge troves of information about a certain car. And I've done 5. I've done a WRX should be dropping tomorrow, which is April 9th. GD WRX, which is Bug-Eye, Blob Eye, Hawkeye.
RIP your mentions, by the way. For the WRX
I know once the WRX kids get involved. Oh my God. And I have such a secret love for Subarus. I no reason for it other than I just think they're wonderful. But anyways, part of my job at Car Bibles, we'll get to that later because I want to talk about Subarus. But part of my job at Car Bibles is compiling all this info from forums, and it's such an interesting way to see how car culture's evolved from like 2005 to present. And you just see. And I guess it hasn't evolved much besides moving to Facebook in a lot of ways, because you still have dudes who say things with enough authority and enough punctuation that they're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that kind of thing. It's like, this is totally incorrect, guys. You don't fill up your oil until it comes out of the top, that kind of thing. But I'm not sure how we got on the tangent, but yeah, it's qualifiers. That's the thing. It's the gatekeeping.
Well, I mean, honestly, like the internet culture piece of it does sort of circle back to all of this and how because the larger culture is going through this same moment of we're having like this radical democratization of all of these subcultures, and they're all like, there's like big fights within like the knitting community over that's like a legit like online beef in the
great schism of knitting.
There was a fabric artist that we saw on Twitter that was talking about how other people in her knitting group or fabric artist group were trying to dictate that she shouldn't be doing politically themed fabric arts. Like,
oh my God.
Right.
It's that, you know what that is? It's people who comment on various journals. Johnny Lieberman? People who comment on Johnny Lieberman's Instagram and they're like, keep the politics out of it, man. It's like, what else? Like, come on. Like, it speaks to such a privileged position that you could say that, keep the politics out of it. Right. It's like, dude, for me, I can't keep the politics out of it. It's everything. It's the policy, the everything. It's affected me my whole life. Like, come on. Like,
and what's really frustrating with that is that, yes, that is a privileged position, but it's also a dumb one because whether they know it or not, those things are affecting them. Like that, putting gasoline in your car in 2021 is a political decision at this point, right? Like, like everything you do is connected to, like you said, you're inflicting yourself on wherever you are.
Yes, you're exacting your wrath upon the road,
Right.
which is the way I like to think of my driving.
I mean, I think for good or bad, I think people can contribute positively to their surroundings as well.
Right.
Yeah, I just think it's like a blatant like head in the sand way to go through the world.
It is, and I mean, if we're speaking on the macro level, a lot of people just have their head in the sand. It's just it's a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really bugs me. I'm just like, how do you not have the thirst for knowledge and the thirst for knowing and the thirst for approaching someone and just talking to them and just like and just wanting to know somebody? Like, it's one of my favorite things in the world is just going up to someone and talk to them. Like, I go to this thing called Good Vibes Breakfast Club every Friday on Crest, and there's always some dude with a random cool car. Like, there's a dude like an Audi 80, but with like a 4-cylinder, like EA. What is it? The EA 823. Someone's gonna crucify me. I don't know that the 1.8 liter.
You're on the wrong podcast, sir.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We have no idea.
And I was just talking to the guy. He's super cool, and then he tells me like, "Yeah, I have an E39 M5 at home," and I'm like, "This guy's super dope." You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's like the beauty of it. And then you have some car guys who just stand around their circle and they're like, and they're sitting there like, "Is your golf tuned, bro? I'm gonna gap you," that kind of stuff. Like, it's just like please cut it out. Like, it's not cool. It's not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The world unfortunately has no shortage of assholes, right? They all have to go somewhere on the weekend, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just
yeah. But there's good folks out there, right? You know?
There is. Oh, absolutely, dude. Cars are that's something I touched on in the actual article. Actually, I love how it just segues into that. Cars are a powerful vector for gathering and for knowing people and making friends and doing things. It's, a car is a powerful tool, and it on its own has its own sort of, existence, its own being, its own story. And it could take you places, but you also experience the thing with the car. And that's been my primary love with all of the 12 cars I've owned, is that I remember them for the things I did with them. The machine itself is like, whatever. Yeah. Okay. It's a machine, but it's more about the things you do with it.
Absolutely.
And where you take it. And it's like, even if I sell the Golf tomorrow, I'll always be remembering I took it to San Francisco last weekend. That was super dope. I was a big fan of that. Like, you know what I mean? Or I remember with the Spec B, I used to have a Subaru Legacy Spec B. I remember I was yelling at Yimmy Sport because the thing was just not running right. And I'm just like, I was so frustrated. I'm like, are you telling me an O2 sensor means that this thing knocks its brains out? Like, that makes no sense. Please get this thing out of my face, which is a negative memory, but still a memory. I still remember it. And my Outback, I just bought an Outback like 2 weeks ago. It exploded immediately. It was great. I bought it because it's a flat 6.
Oh yeah.
The whole point of my article series and that was going to be like, I bought the cheapest flat 6 in America, and it's not a 911. It's a $4,000 flat 6 Outback. Super dope. And I bought it under the condition that it wasn't an EJ Subaru and it wouldn't explode. The first thing it does is blow its head gaskets. Blow its head gaskets sky high.
Stop the presses. You're saying that a Subaru blew a head gasket.
Right. No, dude. Here's the thing with the flat 6s. I thought they solved that. It's like they engineered the engine in 2000. Like, they didn't solve this problem. Are you kidding me? And it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm getting on a tangent of my own cars there.
No. All right. So I want to bring it back to gentrification for just a second, because
yes, absolutely.
And I just need you to stick with me for this. This is one of those shower thoughts that I had where it's meandering, and I'll get there. Okay. So after I read your article, I was kind of like stewing on it for a few days, and I was like, there's something else there about gentrification and car culture. And I think it's that, like, gentrification is such a fraught topic because you're really kind of like trying to decide between, like what Dave was talking about the, like, that entitlement of, or how you put it, like the colonizer mindset of like arriving someplace and making demands. But on the other hand, like, all basically good things that we have in our life are because two cultures interacted and they did something better, right? Like
Right.
Italian food or like all music, right? Like it's all I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to put this spin on it, and then someone else is going to take it back and change it in another way. Like that sort of cultural exchange is like super important.
Yes.
And I think with urbanization, we're at this moment where there's like a struggle there, right? Where like, how do you preserve the things that you liked about, like, why did you move to downtown wherever? Because it's happening all over the world.
Right.
And why are you changing it once you get there? Like, how do you preserve the thing that you like and make it better or invest in it without destroying it? And I think car culture is definitely at that crossroads, like right now, because we are seeing increased urbanization and we are trying to address climate change. Like, how do we preserve the good parts of car culture that we've been talking about this whole show?
Right.
But also broaden it to other people and, satisfy the demands of this new urban class that rightfully wants us to be more carbon neutral and rightfully wants safer cities and all these other things.
I mean, I feel like that's as complicated a question as answering why do you show up somewhere and make demands that is you have no claim to. It's like, because for my experience with it is that for me, my generation of car culture, for me, you ever listen to Bill Burr's podcast? It's hilarious. Sorry. My experience with cars has been a reclamation experience. I've reclaimed cars from what my parents experienced them as, which my parents are, they immigrated here in the 80s. And for them, it was essential lifeline. They needed transportation at all costs. It wasn't about, it wasn't about the sex, the power of anything about a car. It wasn't about the status at the time. It was just about getting to work. It was just about making it work.
Right. Utilitarian.
Then it was utilitarian, exactly. And especially in the time I've spent in Central America, which is a couple years, like go back and forth to visit family. Over there, they just make it work. They just get what they need. And there is no, El Salvador has some car cultures. It's really interesting, actually. They have a little subset of people who modify their cars. And there's one guy who's like an insane 906, but that kind of thing. But like Nicaragua, stuff like that, you just see diesel trucks everywhere. For me, it was a reclamation of what cars meant, because it wasn't until mid 2000s that my dad bought an E39 528i. And that's when I realized that I'm like, cars could be something more than something to be used. And something that wasn't just in my screen, because I played video games my whole life. I was playing like Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, and I always loved cars, but I always told my parents like cars are just, you just go back and forth with them. And there's still that change happening. There's still a lot of people who are reclaiming cars or aren't, who are still using cars as their lifeline. And I think that problem has been exacerbated since the financial crisis, since 2008, because now we have a lot of people in negative equity in their cars doing rideshare or working minimum wage. And these are the jobs that are the most brutal things to work at. Like if you miss one day, you're fired. If you're late, you're fired. All this kind of stuff. And you get into this really nasty cycle of, I need a car to get to work. I can't afford the car cash. I finance a car. Oh, but then if I can't get to work, or if I have, like anyone else, there's some days you just can't get to work. And you have these people who are trapped by their cars.
Right.
And it's a cycle. It's a really concerning cycle to me. And it goes back. Sorry, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say that point right there of like the context of the moment we're in and how it affects car culture and people's path into enthusiasm. That kind of goes back to our conversation that we were having earlier about how there's like this certain subset of people who are like, cars are escapism and keep the politics out of cars. But even like for the most part, like old school hot rod culture that those people are sort of like kind of have nostalgia for, I think. That was born because of a political reality and an economic reality of people coming home post-war to a lot of prosperity, right?
Yes.
And that would not have existed if it were 10 years after a financial crisis,
Right. Exactly. And I think, people are struggling more than ever now, especially after, we're at the tail end of pandemic. I don't know. I don't know how much longer it could go.
Right.
And people are only struggling more. They're in the same cycle as they ever were. It concerns me day by day. It's, again, back to the escapism point. It's that there's a certain amount of guilt I have just having my car as something more than just transportation, more than just a tool. And I feel a certain amount of do I really deserve this? Do I really deserve to just have a car for fun? And that kind of thing. And it's something I struggle with as first generation kind of enthusiast, I guess, in my family. And I guess the answer to this problem was always public transport, right? The ship has sailed. The ship has sailed. And that's the real concerning thing is how are we gonna dig our way out? And that's a really complicated answer to a question.
Yeah. I will say, I do want to say, though, that I think that, I think the argument for cars being a political reality and also escapism at the same time is that if they're not escapism, then why is it worth fighting over them politically, right?
Right.
I think you have to allow yourself those
to enjoy
moments
them.
You have to.
Right.
Otherwise, what's the point? Why?
Exactly. And I agree. As much as I have that guilt, I still, some of the greatest moments I have with myself is just in a car, sunset somewhere. I have Marvin Gaye on the radio, listening to right in the middle of what's going on, and I'm just free. I'm just there.
So
and that's the part of that romance with cars that's so important, and that's kind of lost for new car buyers or for a lot of people.
Sure.
I'm not going to say that young people hate cars. Young people love cars. Car culture is bigger than ever. There's so many young people in whatever car they chose, they couldn't afford. Car culture is as strong as ever, but I don't know. It's hard to articulate. Sorry, go for it. Go for it, Dave.
So when you talk about that kind of potential guilt or those feelings of introspection as to where you fit, taking in the full spectrum of what it is to be a car owner, what it takes, what has gotten you to that point, right? That introspection that you have, I want you to remember that the mere fact that you have that introspection and that you're thinking about those kinds of things as part of that entire spectrum of things, that's the kind of thing that I think makes a model enthusiast or a truly good contributor to car culture and to culture as a whole, right? Because would you want to be the person that that drives down the road listening to Marvin Gaye, and just has no perspective on any of the things that happened to get them there? Or do you want to know about that stew, and that stuff that I think it allows you a deeper appreciation of those things that you have and that we can enjoy, right?
Absolutely.
I think that introspection, I feel in individuals that introspection is an indication of a good person. Just to kind of
why thank you, Dave?
Well, no, just broad strokes, right? It's something I talk about a lot, right? Because I think that we've crossed paths with people in our lives that have no fucking introspection whatsoever.
Yeah, they're not. It's not.
Right.
It's kind of. I call it a lack of thoughtfulness. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Not appreciating the moment.
Right. And sometimes those people are harmless. Sometimes they're not. Right.
Well, the lady from the article, right?
The lady from the article is harmful. That's toxic.
Right. Right. But having that introspection is something that I think is really powerful, and I like that we identify that in ourselves and each other. That is a really important thing.
Right. Yeah, and it's just I just find it incredible. I think I said this earlier. It's just that someone can just wake up one day and they just plop into existence and they just are. Yeah, they don't think about what's happened. And it's,
Right.
For me, that guilt always comes back to thinking about the many knee points in my parents' lives and my lives where I probably wouldn't be in this house or have my car or have any of this stuff. I could be a very different person at any given moment. You know, it's just the wonder. It's just being floored by life and how unbelievable it is that that we all come to exist in this way.
Right. It adds
that's getting
gratitude.
super meta.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No, I think
exactly.
it's important that I think we kind of, as car enthusiasts and also just people in the world, kind of like call out uncuriosity when we see it, right? Like if you're, and I think it's bad. And I think that one thing that we always talk about on the show is like kind of when we see issues in the larger culture, chances are it's probably happening in car culture too. So we as enthusiasts have the responsibility to kind of like clean our own house first.
Yeah.
And I think we know people as car enthusiasts that are only interested in cars. Like it's their whole personality.
That scares me, man.
Right. And that's not healthy either. That's not good for the hobby. It's not good for the culture around them.
Right. It's like that scares the shit out of me when I meet someone whose like entire identity is I have this X car.
Right.
And like this X car is me. And if I don't have this X car, I am nothing. And it's like, then we're just getting into some weird consumerist, post-capitalist, like you're attaching your entire self-worth to an object, a machine.
Right.
And I just think it's important that we all, that's goes back to cars as escapism. It's that we recognize that cars are a machine to escape, but we have to recognize, why we need this escape.
Right.
What are we escaping from? Yeah.
What are we escaping from? Exactly. And for me, driving a car is meditative. I drive a car, I'm meditating. I'm just vibing. I'm just driving. You know what I mean? And like, I'm having a good time. So in the canyons, of course, when I'm on the track, it's focused. Even then I kind of just get into a zen, just.
Right. You can't think about other stuff, right?
Right. Exactly. And that's super important. And I don't know. It's just one of the beauties of motoring, of machinery. And then, but I still, when I have that moment, when I feel it, when I get to that point, I still can't think, but what about, what's going on in the real world?
Right.
What about like, what is the cost of my pleasure? What is the cost of what I'm enjoying right now? What's the damage? And maybe it's not a great thing to think about and have a mindset of, but it's something I struggle with. It's something I struggle with for sure.
Yeah.
And especially with that, where you have me, I'm vibing in the mountains, and then you have someone somewhere else getting bothered by some cops about what's on their car.
Right.
And that kind of thing. And even me, when I get bothered in the mountains by the cops, which has happened just recently. Allegedly. I guess I'll tell the story now. It's allegedly I was speeding in the mountains. Not very much, if I do say so myself. And I got pulled over. I got pulled over by a federal cop, a federal forest ranger. And he pulled up, he's like, you were doing this speed, license registration, whatever. I put my key on the roof, all that crap. And after he asked for that, he stays there and he's like, also, I'm going to need you to pop your hood because I see that you have a cob license plate frame. And I have reason to believe that your car is illegally modified. And I just said, no, I'm not popping my hood.
Right.
Why would I do that? And it's like, oh, well, I have probable cause that, you're speeding and allegedly speeding. And, you have this cob license plate and the car might not pass smog. And I'm like, the car passes smog. I don't think this is the problem. I just write me the ticket. Here's my stuff. And he's like, sir, I just need you to pop the hood. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. It was back and forth for like 4 minutes. And eventually it got to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to get out of the car so he doesn't beat the shit out of me. And he's like, go to the back of the car. And I didn't give him any consent. And he just goes in, pops the hood, looks around. And I'm just like, okay. And he looks under my hood and he tells me how my intake is legal. And I'm like, no, it isn't as a car. It's car legal. Why? It's not illegal. What are you talking about? I have the paperwork right here. And he points at various things in my engine bay are what's wrong. And I continually tell him, no, this is how it's supposed to be. This is fine. and he was wrong on all counts. And it just got to the point in the back and forth where he was just telling me about how I have this sticker that says "No Good Racing," and does a little fun hang loose hand on it. And he's like, "Oh, like if you have a sticker that says racing on your car, I mean, that means you're obviously doing illegal things up here." And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean shit. Like, it's just self-expression. I can't express myself. And that encounter was such a jarring way to bring me back to earth. It ruined like my mood for the rest of my day, because it was so strange to have this space where I feel safe, where I feel, right, or I'm comforted, I'm on these roads, I'm familiar, and I feel like I won't be bothered.
You're in the middle of therapy essentially at that point, right?
Exactly. Meditating. I'm in the middle of meditating. I have songs on the radio, and I get immediately jarred by imposing police presence. Right. And imposing police presence that seems to think that there's a lot of things going on in my car that really aren't.
Right.
And wants to state ref me. And that sort of contrast, this happened after my article, which is incredible. Life works in mysterious ways, and reminding you certain things. And it was such a jarring moment. And I was just like, it terrifies me that, okay, I'm the guy in a stock looking GTI, which is secretly worked, but not in the engine compartment in any way. Stage 1 tune, which passes smog. And I'm getting bugged like this. Like, I can only imagine the guy who has an actual cool car, with an exhaust or something. And suddenly he has a huge problem and he's getting towed off the mountain because he has a blow off valve or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's clashing. It's because there's that clash of, gentrifiers, car culture, that kind of thing. And then add the third thing of police being an armed arm of the state to exact the demands of the rich few. So you just have this, what feels like overwhelming pressure on a certain group of car enthusiasts.
Yeah, absolutely. In society, like, those individuals, like, bear the brunt worse than other people. And the same goes inside of car culture, right? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It goes, it's one of the most interesting examples I see is, I don't know if you guys ever visited LA, but
yeah,
the least policed areas have the most investment in, like, I know we're going off cars here. Give me just 30 minutes.
It's all part of the same thing, right? Yeah.
Okay. Right. It is. The least policed areas have the most built environment, the most environments that are designed for walking and, just going out and being able to use the spaces as a pedestrian. And there's barely any cops, and the budget all goes into what they call built environments, which is like parks, shop, like that kind of thing. And you go, that's like, let's call Beverly Hills, West Side, that sort of place in Los Angeles. And you go south to Inglewood, South Central, where I grew up in Southgate, you don't see a lot of built environments, but you see a lot of cops.
Right.
You see cops all the time.
Right.
And you see where the scales went in terms of money, in terms of investment. And it's so troubling to me that, instead of, and the same thing with homelessness, is that we spend all this money on a certain part of the city that's like, okay, but on the other part of the city, we need cops to protect them, protect whatever. I don't know what you're protecting, honestly. What you're doing is oppressing, honestly. It's just, it's all part of a big old concerning trend. It's that I'm articulating very poorly because it's so overwhelming for me to think about sometimes.
Right.
It's
insane. Right.
No, it totally is. I mean, I asked you a question that took like 5 minutes. So like,
yeah,
there's so much, like, so many parts of society are like in this moment of conflict, and to pretend that they're not related to each other at all just seems bizarre sometimes.
Well, I mean, everything's related. That's the truth of the matter, is that you can't, I think that's a big problem with the head in the sand mentality, is that you have people who think they can just have their one little thing.
Right.
And not. And it's just like, I'm sorry, guys, but this is the world,
Right.
And that's probably intrinsically American for us to believe that we can have our one thing. And
right.
I really think to have a functioning urban society, at the very least, maybe not rural, but urban society, is you need to have people who realize that everything is everything, that your actions affect your neighbors, and no matter what you do, it's everything you do affects your fellow person. And we all live in the same place, instead of just living in our one box, which for some reason a lot of gentrifiers come in and just like, this is my box. This is how I want the entire thing.
And it should be your box too, right?
And it should be your box too.
Yeah, and they build literal boxes.
Like, right, yeah. They
that's
build
the shape of all their houses.
Soulless boxes. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, stop. Please stop. And it's like, it's the moving parts of it are so overwhelming that you can only pick your little niche. And that's what I picked with this piece, is that I'm like, I see a clear example of, this clash. This is like one of the first battles I've seen that is like really obviously, yes, this is a clash between gentrifiers and car culture.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
And it's like, I wonder how this is going to progress is my thing. I'm really hoping for a follow-up, or I wonder if I could follow up on this and seeing how this is going to move on, if they're going to break the show up with police, or if they're going to move, just the show's going to move. I don't know. It's so interesting. It's just, it's so weird to me that there's a giant group of people who just want to move places and sanitize it. It's so weird because there's so much personality in an old city or in an old place.
Yeah. Why did you move there? Yeah.
Why did you? Yeah, you looked at the place and you want to move there and make everything a frozen yogurt place, or all this vegan frozen yogurt. Much as I love veganism, I like that stuff's dope. Like, keep on doing that. It's just it's like, why are you gonna move somewhere? Just make it where you came from. That just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
It's the. Anyways,
well,
yeah.
On that note, I have we play a game on this show called FMK Cars.
All right, let's
it's based on the classic game of Fuck, Marry, Kill, except with cars instead of people, because we're nice. And so we usually do this with a twist. So basically, I'll give you 3 cars. You're going to assign F, M, K. F means you drive it for a day. M means you're going to marry it. It's your new daily driver.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And K means you're going to kill it. It's going to go to the crusher.
Okay. All right. Let's.
So, and I like to get absurd with my titles. So my title for this one is, you know what this neighborhood needs? Condos made of lots of ugly rectangles. Yeah, put a gym on the ground floor with big windows. Everyone will hate it.
All right.
Cars with a gentrification twist.
Dude, this is gonna be good stuff. Am I gonna see F30 320i's?
No, you're not gonna you're gonna see where this is going. All right. So the first one is a 2021 Dodge Charger Scat Pack.
Oh.
Okay. So the twist is, show me
all 3 and then I decide, or
all 3. Then you decide.
All right.
Okay. And I'm gonna make up the rule right now. I did not write this down, but based on the screenshot that Dave is just showing us now, you have to keep the yellow thing on the spot.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry, Chris.
Just to unsweeten the pot just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So you can live in any neighborhood you want, but after you move in, everyone in that neighborhood will also have a 2021 Dodge Charger Scat Pack in the same car. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Any neighborhood in the country you want, but then as soon as you move in, everyone will slowly replace their car to be exactly like yours.
I mean, that sounds like an excellent reality, except for the yellow guards. But anyways,
that's what I thought as I was writing this. I was like, actually, it'd be kind of fun to just have like everywhere. Yeah, it'd be like a spec series. But then I remembered that I've seen other people drive, and I was like, that's maybe not a great idea.
Unintended acceleration in that car would be unintended acceleration into a nearby lake.
Yeah. I will say, just as I could be being influenced by a personal experience that I had yesterday, where I had dropped my kid off at school and I was driving back home, and a guy came just out of an alley, like just had not touched the brakes or anything.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Just caught air coming out of an alley, and then just looked at me and gave me a head nod,
yeah, I love it.
Thanks, bro, for not being 10 feet in front of where you were.
You don't get to sup me for not killing me.
Right.
Dude, I love the do anything wrong, just sup.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Just stop it. Like it's.
Yeah. One thing we've talked about on the show a lot is that my favorite reaction to road rage is to blow a kiss and just give one of these like one of those.
Yeah, that's a good one. I do a thumbs down most of the time because I can put it out the window. Right. But the blowing kisses if they come up to me, but like that's rare.
I like
all
that.
right, so the first one, Dodge Charger Scat Pack. You can live in any neighborhood you want, but after you move in, everyone in that neighborhood will also have the same car.
All right, okay.
The second one is a 1997 Toyota Avalon.
Wow, what a machine!
Yeah, you have to live in a suburb, but you will have the only 1997 Toyota Avalon in the world. One of one.
Okay. Wow. Bring a trailer. Big time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last one, 1965 Chevy Impala, modified however you like. You must live in San Francisco, but as soon as you move in, your rent is paid for. As soon as you move in, all small businesses are replaced with chains.
Oh, damn!
See, this is what makes a good FMK cars.
Dude, did you be checking my socials? I've been fawning over San Francisco, and you do this to me.
San Francisco's amazing. Right,
Yeah. It's, geez, man. Okay, all right. So we got Scat Pack, but everyone has one in any neighborhood.
Yep.
Avalon, but suburb, and I'm one of one.
Yep.
And Impala, San Francisco, rent paid for, but no small business. Jesus. Oh shit, this is hard.
Could you live your life eating Starbucks breakfast options? No.
I mean, low key. No, I couldn't. Yeah, no, I couldn't.
Now, donuts, we can talk.
Yeah.
Still can have good food. I've only got like the Starbucks. I get their what the hell is it? Prosciutto biscuit? No, not prosciutto. Prosciutto's meat. It's some kind of Udo cheese, whatever it is.
Sure.
It's Gouda. It's smoked Gouda sandwich. It's actually pretty solid. Maybe I'm a psycho for thinking that.
Nope.
But try. Anyways, okay. So fuck, Barry, kill these three things. Oh shit! Damn.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Here's a wild card: I'm secretly the biggest Toyota fanboy on earth. I love Toyotas.
Okay.
I love Toyotas, dude. I just adore them. Even Avalon is a great car.
The weird thing about it is like how much you can get for it not being a Lexus and Lexus prices. It's like it's insane.
It's a mini Lexus.
Yeah,
it's a mini. It's just like, even like the XV20 Camry, the 2000 one. It's so refined. It's so good. Anyways, okay. Wow, this is going to be controversial, but I think I'm going to marry the Avalon, but live in a suburb.
Okay.
I think. I can't kill small businesses. No, wait. But Charger, but everyone has one. But do I care if everyone has one? I have a GTI. Everyone has one.
Right.
Well, remember, you also get you can have one for a day. So you could run Spec Series for a day, or you could have a one of one for a day, or something like that.
Yeah, but do I want to live in a suburb? I mean, I already. What do we? Okay, all right. I'm just gonna make a decision.
I'm talking like leave it to Beaver suburb, like not like near or urban neighborhood, like suburb.
Yeah, like actual fuck nowhere suburb.
Yep. Yeah. The kind of place that makes you itchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, God. I might have to. I'm gonna fuck the Impala.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, for one day.
For one day.
Great choice.
For one day. I think fucking the Impala one day is a good vibe. The tough one here is the marry. No. I'll marry the Charger. I'll marry the Charger.
And live in any neighborhood.
Yeah, that means I could live in like Marin or something. like something dope, or I'll live in like where do I want? I don't even know where I want to live. Like, you guys ever heard of Sunland? That place is dope.
No.
Or like East LA, dude. I love it up there. Like, there's just really so many dope viewpoints in like Lincoln Heights. But yeah, it would definitely be. I think I'm gonna marry the Charger. I'm sorry, Avalon. You're
That's
dead
okay.
to me.
Yeah, you've erased the Avalon from the face of the planet, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But it's okay. There's better Toyotas. It's fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's a good one,
Yeah.
Ian. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't care if other people drive. Dude, I think more V8s. Okay, here's the great duality of the car enthusiasts, right? Is that as much as I'm like global, like climate change is real, we need to burn less shit. V8s are excellent. And if everyone had a V8 around me in my neighborhood, that'd be good stuff, you know?
Right.
And it's like, and you know, splitter protectors, whatever, fine. I'll deal with it.
There's not going to be a single tree in your neighborhood that doesn't have a charger in it.
Oh, dude, that's fabulous. That just means more clear space for me.
Right? Yeah.
more crash chargers, please. Maybe we'll just knock it off with like a driveway or something. Just kill the bananas.
Yeah.
No, I would go one further. I would do like pink ones. Just customize it. Yeah. Just own it. Own the charger.
Right.
I love the idea too of like somebody who like comes to visit and is just like, what the fuck?
Right. Like Stepford wives.
Yeah. Does everyone have the same color?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone has the same color, right? Yeah, that was part of it. God, what color would I choose? I would pick something like, I want to go for a yellow. Like, I love a good. Do they sell those in yellow?
I think they do. I can't remember the name of it, but you can get them in a yellow. I'm almost positive. Yeah. Because I know they have that obnoxious green too. That like neon.
That green is pretty good. That's the thing I love about SRT is they have such an excellent sense of humor about everything.
Right.
Like, it's just like they're kind of like the last hurrah of what's great about just what I always thought Mopar was so cool. Even in the 60s and 70s, their little characters like the Duster, the Roadrunner. They're always the coolest American cars I ever saw. I'm just like, and I'm not like a huge American car guy, but I'm like, these are dope. There's just fun. It's like that's what it's about, right? It's about the fun of it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I'd go for that yellow. Absolutely. No stripes. No stripes.
I like how you're like, let's pull it back a little.
Yeah, it's yellow but no stripes. We're good there. I think that's a nice.
There has to be a line somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I just want to pull that up to Chris Harris's 911 Touring and be like, same color. Same thing. You know.
It's hilarious.
Nice. I think if I had the spoiler, splinter protectors, I think I would put those Pep Boys eyelashes on them. Like,
dude, that'd be kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Kind of. I would do the garden edging lip kit. You ever seen that?
Oh no! What's that?
Just and street sweep it. It's like straight up garden edging, but people like staple it to the front of their cars or something. Like sheet metal screw it. It's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, it's like the super like cheap air dam sort of thing of like getting that look of like this like the 70s ground effect race cars. People do that with gardening materials. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, no, dude, it's cheap. We're here for the cheap car mods. We're here for the cheap car mods.
If you go to Home Depot as part of your car parts run, we're here.
That's
for
good
it.
vibes. Yeah, that's good vibes. That's excellent vibes. You want a flat under tray? Get some plywood.
Yep. I have 4 exposed sheet metal screws on my Vigan right now, so it's fine.
Good stuff, dude.
It's
yeah,
fine.
Just sob psychos. I love it, man. The only sob, dude. I'm on the hunt because the Outback I'm pulling the engine and I'm gonna yoink the engine out myself, but doing the actual head gaskets are insanely complicated because it's a timing chain flat 6.
Sure.
So my friends at Yimmy Sport are gonna do it for me for cheap. Well, I'm gonna sit there and fuck them up and screw around while they're doing it. So I'm putting it in and I'm gonna move the Outback along once it's fixed. Which actually I should get it. I should actually make some money on it since the head gaskets are done.
Nice.
I'm on the hunt for a Subaru.
Okay. Yeah. The 9.2 Aero, man. Yeah.
9.2X Aero. It's such a fabulous car. It's not a Saab, at all.
Right,
it was just Bob Lutz saying, "What's a Saab?"
Yeah.
Right.
I will say it's hard to find those unmodified or just not beat to shit.
Oh, dude, I fucked up 2 years ago when I was on the hunt for my Spec B. I test drove a blue Aero 2005, so it was a 2-liter, the one you want. Fuck 2.5s. J25s are garbage. Okay, and it was just right. It was an honest car, so there's lots of dinks and dents on dents and dents on the body. And it was a San Francisco car, which I've had incredible luck with San Francisco cars. I bought a Civic Si from San Francisco. I love San Francisco. Anyways, and it was owned by a tech bro who's just rich, who's loaded, right? And his friend was holding it for him or whatever, and it was like full service records from new, like one owner, good miles, like 120,000 miles, like no miles in the car, and they wanted $4,500 for it. And the only reason I didn't take it is because when I got home that night, I saw the Spec B for sale for $7,500. I'm just like, oh, that's what I want. I want the Spec B. I want the STI 6-speed. In retrospect, in hindsight's 2020. I should have bought the Subaru. Would have been so much better.
I like the Spec B is a good car too, though. I mean, I'm not gonna. It's not like you like bought, you know.
I
any other car.
Spec B is a great car that I think a lot of people who know me mistake me for hating it, because I've had strong words about it in the past. Because it is no fault of the car. It's just Subaru. It's just you need to buy it and you need to immediately tune it, or else it's gonna misfire and ping its brains out because it's just Subarus. And it's like the 6-speed and the clutch are one of the greatest gearbox and clutch combos I've ever experienced in my life. That STI 6-speed is so fabulous. Like almost nothing holds a candle to it. Just the mechanical feel of it, the throttle calibration, everything. I love that. I love that Spec B. It just needed an STI rack desperately, and it needed better suspension desperately. And I couldn't afford to give it that, because that was before I'm now a rich blogger. No, I'm not. That was before at least I was gainfully employed.
Right.
So it's like, it's interesting looking back at my cars and seeing what a little bit of money would have done, because I was just running so much on a shoestring budget. Straight shoestring. It's incredible. But yeah. Anyways. Sobs.
No. Well, we have a complicated relationship with Subarus here in Denver, and so in Colorado they are everywhere. It is like Ian's scenario with the Scat Pack. Like like if you had a Subaru here, you would have to spray paint your social security number on it in order to find it in the parking lot.
It's just a bunch of I would freak, because when I visit Lake Tahoe, it's just like Subarus. It's just just like, Subarus are cool, but like, good lord, like,
right. It's like, people, there are other cars. Like,
it's actually a really good way to think about like Denver and Boulder. Like, imagine they made a city out of Lake Tahoe, and that's sort of what Denver and Boulder are like.
Just Subarus out of everything. It's nuts.
Yeah. And I used to live in Oklahoma. I lived in Oklahoma City, and I had a Subaru there, and I was the only person with a Subaru.
That's pretty cool.
And it was rad, because every time it snowed, I would just go out and just do donuts in the middle of the intersection, because like nobody else could drive in the snow and no one else had 4-wheel drive. So it was awesome. And then I moved here, and I was like, I can't have a Subaru again.
God, I love them, man. I don't know. It's something
great.
about
They're great.
They're charismatic. They're not. I'm going to be the last person to say Subarus are good cars. They're great cars, but they're bad cars at the same time. They're like great and terrible. But they're charismatic is what they are. They're some of the most charismatic things ever. Like I've driven so much. Like the next most charismatic thing I've driven is a Porsche 356, and that's just like God tier. Like that's S level charisma. You know what I mean? And it's like Subarus are cool, man. It's just they're massive flaming piles of shit when they want to be. Like
all good cars are simultaneously the best car and the worst car at the same time.
Right. That's I struggle with the GTI. I'm just like, it's too good. It hasn't let me down. It just works.
Be careful what you ask for.
I know. I have a big old wood desk here. I'm gonna knock on it 3 times. And I mean, I guess it has. I just overlook its issues because it had the rear main seal leak. It's gone through 3 PCVs. It's gone through all that shit. And it's just such a great car. I just start freaking out. I'm like, I need pain. I need something. Like I need a different car. That's why I bought an Outback, and I got immediate pain.
Right. No, having something where like you start it and you get that thrill of like, oh fuck, thank God it started. Right. You get that adrenaline hit and you get addicted to it. Right?
That's why I like to live with a serial killer, because that way I appreciate it when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, right.
Oh God, another day, another night I didn't get murdered.
piece I have coming up. I don't know if Andrew Collins, my editor in chief or fearless leader, has edited it yet. You should edit it, Andrew, if you're listening. About buyer's guilt. And
He is not.
He is not. Yeah, he's not listening. I'll get him to listen. But it's like buyer's guilt. I have a huge piece of buyer's guilt and how I get it every single time I buy a car. And I got it real bad at the Outback, because here's the story at the Outback. It was a real roller coaster. Okay, I bought it from a dealership, which I've never done. It was like a small enthusiast dealer. They had like an E46 M3 in the showroom on LMs and like a bunch of cool shit. I'm like, okay, I can maybe trust this person-ish. Not really. It's still a dealer. I bought it, and I was driving it home from like, I live up north of LA, and this is like an east, like the Inland Empire.
Okay.
So it's like an hour and a half drive home. And as I'm driving it up the freeway, I'm giving it some gas, and I hear it like making pained noises. It's like going,
oh no.
And I'm like, what is this noise? Like, what the fuck? And I keep listening, and I'm like, it sounds like something's rattling, but it doesn't happen all the time. And when I put it in neutral, it stopped. And I'm like, okay. And I put it in drive, and it go again. I'm like, what the fuck? So I thought the trans was like going bad. I'm like, shit. So I get it home. And then the next morning on a hunch, I'm like, I should check the oil. And I checked the oil, and it had 2 quarts in the pan. It had no oil in it. And I was like, what the shit? And I checked the oil when I test drove it, and it had oil in it. I didn't really check it because I didn't have a rag. So I just like looked, and I'm like, oh, it has oil. Okay. And I get it home, and it has no oil. And I'm like, well, okay, let me put some oil in it. I put in 3 quarts of oil before it got to the top fill line. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how did this shit not explode? And I drive it around, and the engine is vibing. No more rattling, nothing. It was totally cool. So it was just, I was riding a high, and I was off-roading it. I was trucking the thing. I was jeeping it. Every time I took it out, I would just hit the dirt, no matter what. And then I'm driving it up back from Willow Springs from Grid Life, and then the temp gauge just shoots up, and I'm just like, oh, that's good vibes. And I'm just like, okay, like, cool, it's overheating. And I kind of just like run it around, see it when it overheats, and I notice, okay, it's when I stop for a minute, it overheats, and then I keep going and it stops overheating. I checked the thermostat. Thermostat is bad. It wouldn't open at 186 degrees or whatever. So I put in a new thermostat, vibing for a full day. And then I'm jeeping in the desert, and suddenly full red overheating, bubbling overflow. And I'm like, yep, it exploded. That's it. Head gasket's gone. So it's been parked for like 2 weeks now. So like that car is giving me an insane up and down roller coaster. Yep. And like buyer's guilt I got from like that first day of rattling was just so intense. I've never felt it like that before, because I've never bought a second car before. I've never like had the means to like go out and just have a second car for fun. And like, I just felt so bad. I'm like, oh, this is life telling me that I'm wasting my fucking money and that kind of shit.
Right.
And like, I felt it with every car I bought, because like most of them pieces of shit, like my 335. Oh my God. When I brought that thing home, it's like, I wake up the next morning and I back it up and I see the Exxon Valdez.
Oh no.
Just oil all over the driveway, just splattered. And I'm just like, oh no. And that was, I think, my first piece I wrote for the site was, I bought the 335i, and I ended up driving Dad's pizza van. And that was that morning. And I see the oil. I'm like, well, okay. And I hop in the pizza van and I admit defeat just immediately. I'm like, yep, this thing already leaks fucking oil like a sieve. Yeah. It's so bad. Yeah. It's just like, I have a talent for buying shit boxes sometimes. Sometimes I buy very good cars.
I like to pride myself on being very picky and making a good decision. I am inside. I am an old man. I am a Werther's candy in human skin. Okay,
Dave, I have bad news for you. You're an old man on the outside now as well.
Yes. So I had an Infiniti M45, loved it, but the cats were going bad on it, so it was overheating, and that's an engine out thing for that car. So I got, yes, right, as good. It's an amazing car. Critical flaw, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? So I picked up a Lexus LS 460, 2008, used,
great.
Private party, old man, right?
No, that's a good car though.
Thank you. I brought it home, jacked up the driver's side because I wanted to take a look at what I'm getting into, right? As I'm jacking up the driver's side, oil starts pouring out from underneath it, right? I just got rid of my M45. That the radiator on the M45 blew on the way to sell it to CarMax. Okay, so I just got rid of it. I'm jacking up the new to me Lexus LS460. Oil pouring out from under it. I'm furiously texting the dude I bought it from, like,
what the fuck?
Yes, right? And he's like, nope, it's never leaked out. Like, he was a bullshit artist to the day he dies, right? So it's like, at some point you just say, like, well, fuck this dude, right? I'm never like, the energy I'm putting into that isn't worth it, right? That buyer's guilt, that like, oh, what have I fucking gotten myself into? Because a couple days before that, my wife and I test drove one of those Buick, not the wagon, but the hatchback Buick that's kind of like the new version of a Saab, right? I could have gotten that, but I didn't. I had to be the weird old guy car guy.
LS460.
Right? And thankfully, after a whole bunch of stuff, it was the dipstick tube O-ring. That was it.
Oh, good stuff.
A Harbor Freight O-ring kit, right? Like, so that, like, that guilt to that elation of finding the problem and it being a cheap fix, like, I can only take
isn't it just like,
right,
just put it in my vein? I love that shit. I'm like,
right. I love it, so and also my heart can only take so many of it.
Right, yeah. It's just like, especially LS460, I was like racking my brains, like, what could leak? Because that's a great engine.
It's fantastic.
That one UR 4.6, that's a great engine. It's like,
it's brilliant.
What leaks on it? Like, I was trying to rack my brains. I was like, what would leak that aggressively? And it's like, dipstick up there.
Well, and you figured out too that it was like the tray, like the bash guard tray or whatever. It was like pooled in there, and then when you jacked it up, it all poured out.
Right. Yeah. Because like me, it has a carpeted underside, right? And so like it was all pooling up on there.
It was just it was just like absorbing. Jeez, God.
Yeah. And so but the emotions that we experience as car enthusiasts, like, it's just like, I just got sweaty just thinking about that just now. Like, my heart rate legit went up. Yeah,
it's sitting like 40 feet that way, and I'm just like, piece of shit. Like, I have to pull the engine. Like, at least it's really easy to yoink the engine. It's probably like an hour, but like that's where I'm at. It's like, I was gonna off-road it and do like a backcountry discovery route in it, but now I'm just like, well, it exploded, and I want a Subaru.
Well, let me tell you a story about how a Saab can also have that dichotomy of like, the idea of what you want it to be, and then the very harsh reality of what it is. Because I just got done with that. I had a Saab 9.3 Turbo X
wagon.
Good stuff.
Super rare car, super cool. Horribly unreliable, and like really poorly made, like just the worst of the world. Like all of the and I always had this thing too of like, whenever anything would break on it or like a piece of trim would fall off, which happened all the time, I would be like, oh, GM was in charge of that part. That was the Swedes wouldn't have done that.
You're right.
GM, that was GM that did that. But this is how big of a moron I am. That was our family car. I have like two small kids. And there was a lot of like, Dad, why are we getting a rental car to go camping? Well,
oh man, that's heartbreaking.
Because the other one is gonna leave us stranded, and we'll be camping permanently if we don't have a rental car.
So keep your GTI. Get the Subaru, right? Yeah.
GTI isn't going anywhere. GTI is the most strange and roundabout forever car I've ever, like, just, I never expected to be like, yes, this is the car.
Has anyone owned a GTI and said, I'll never own a GTI ever again? No.
Most people are like, yeah, I've had the Mark IV, the Mark V, the Mark VI, the Mark 7, the Mark 7.5. Like they've had all of them. And I'm like, I even don't want to upgrade to a Mark 7 for very nerdy reasons. And one of them is that they changed from red backlighting to blue backlighting on the buttons and stuff. That's terrible. It's a crime. It's a crime.
It's a slap in the face.
It has to be red. And they also they omitted those, those little like pilot lights they do in the center console on like some like Beamers and stuff. My Mark 6 has that. And I actually went through the trouble that I thought they weren't bright enough, so I soldered in BMW ones that are much brighter, and so I can actually use it at night.
I love those ambient lights. Yeah, those are amazing. Yeah.
Ambient lights, fabulous. Even the Mercedes nightclubs, I kind of love. There's a part of me that really loves that. But the Mark 7s don't have that. And then also Mark 7s have a shitty stereo. They have that Panasonic Fender, terrible, god-awful thing. The Dyne Audio in my Mark 6, fabulous stereo, just nice and rich. It's good stuff. This is this is the shit I think about my cars, shit like that. It's like it's best. But no, that Mark 6 I'm just keeping. There's no reason for me to sell it. I've already like spent so much time perfecting it, and I'm still working on perfecting it. Like it's just been the mission of removing understeer.
Yeah.
And it's been a very long mission. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, there she is. I don't know. It's a something. It's a GTI. Where like I just recently put 245s on the front. Actually, I changed up the tire setup because I used to run 225 Pilot Super Sports in the front and then 225 Pilot Sport AS4s in the back, Michelin's. And now I figured out that I could fit a 245 4S on the front, so I did that. And I'm jury's still out on how much I like it. It actually understeers more than the 225 Super Sport, which is really interesting. So I think I'm going to try a 245 Super Sport when it comes time to swap tires because I like the steering feel of Super Sports more. This is the granular bullshit I concern with my life every day.
Right. This is the wake up at 2 a.m. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Because like that's been my goal with the GTI. That was my project to make it feel a way because something I was searching for. Tell me when to shut up because this is very boring. Like the thing I was searching for in a car were the things I couldn't modify into it. And the GTI, I arrived to that perfectly where suddenly I was sitting low. I had a great driving position. I had just enough tech. I could put a nav in it, and I have the center MFD where I have this thing called a polar fist where it actually shows like access port level, like diagnostic stuff and like readout. And it's pretty cool. I really enjoy it because it's super OEM and I don't have to run an access port. And I have, adaptive headlights, that kind of stuff, like the right combination of newness and oldness.
Right.
But and the things I didn't like, I could work on, like the steering feel, which is still not great, but a lot better than it was because I did those aluminum S3 knuckles, aluminum control arms, white line anti-lift kit and sway bars and all that stuff. And that's like the main goal. It hasn't been performance. It hasn't been like better lap times. It's been like getting it to feel a certain way. That's been my main thing is like just getting it to feel right and make it feel like a lively hot hatch. And it's been like a battle. Sure. And my favorite so far has been like the Super Sports in the front. So car's still great though. I just love driving it around because it makes me feel proud of what I've done. Because I actually genuinely re-engineered it. And then the StopTech big brake kit, that was good stuff. That was a great upgrade. And then I also did this thing called a fluid amper. Have you ever fluid amper? Ever heard of that?
No.
So it replaces your stock crank damper, which is usually just like a tuned rubber ring that like attenuates a certain vibration that'll break your engine, basically, or is the most vibrating.
Right.
I'm actually getting that replaced on my Volkswagen right now.
Okay. Oh, what do you have? You have a Mark IV, right?
I have a Mark IV R32. Yeah.
Oh, so they sell one for the R32. Have you bought your new replacement one yet?
I have not, and actually, I just brought it in to like get a inspection done because we're doing a track day at the end of the month.
Okay.
And they found it. They were like, "This is part of our normal inspection," and it's starting to crack because it's dry here and it.
Right.
Cracks. Yeah.
Well, here. This is. I can't speak the gospel of this enough. I'm not paid for by them, by the way. I in fact bought this used.
I'm preparing to Google.
Yeah, it's called a fluid amper. So it's just fluid AMPR, and that's just the name of it. And it's like this thing that replaces the crank damper. And instead of just using a tuned rubber ring that only attenuates a certain frequency of vibration and crank harmonics, it uses like a silicone fluid something in the crank damper, so it attenuates all vibrations. So it makes the engine smoother, but then it also frees up horsepower because the engine isn't wasting time with crank harmonics. You know what I mean? Because what happens every time a piston fires, the crank flexes a little bit, and it causes like dinging in it, it hits on it. And what happens with the fluid damper, from what I understand, and I know I sound like a spokesperson, but again, I bought it with my own money. It attenuates those vibrations and those impacts, I guess is what you call it, a lot better than a stock rubber damper. And on my car, according to dyno data by Moto IQ, it frees up like 15 horsepower and 15 torque, and also extends the life of your engine. And also the most incredible thing has been, it feels like I installed a lightweight flywheel in the car.
Okay.
Like the engine is it's insanely smooth, because I have like 034 Motorsport density engine mounts, like solid rubber mounts, not polyurethane, because I'm not a psycho. And it's so smooth, but so revvy and light. And also it revs out now. Like it revs all the way to $6,000 when it used to just like have a power band up to 5. So like I cannot recommend the mod highly enough. If you can buy it for your car, is get a fluid damper, because they're incredible for $450. Like it is unbelievable. I don't know how much it'll do on a VR6, because that's already a pretty balanced engine, but I imagine it'll make it smoother and nicer to rev.
Oh, I mean, I'll ask. I've just found a new like performance VW shot in Denver, so I'll ask them and see what they think about it.
Yeah, give it a shot. Yeah, especially on my TSI, it just transformed the fucking engine. Like it made the engine, like before the engine was fine. Now it's like fabulous. It's like one of the great turbo 4-cylinder. It's smooth. It's fabulous. I love it. Like, anyways, awesome, there you go. Man. There's my soapbox with car mods. It's like the best mod I did out of all the shit I did, is just getting that dumb fluid damper. Is like the best.
Nice.
Yeah. It's cool.
I will petition them to make a 1 of 1 for my Saab Vegan. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we're trying to. My friend has a 944 turbo, an 87.
Okay.
And like we're sitting here like, how do we scumbag fluid damper into making one for a 944 turbo, which is an engine that desperately needs it. It's a very vibrating giant 4-cylinder.
Right.
And it was like, I honestly like these things need to be in everything, because there's such an unbelievable difference.
Nice,
there you go.
Man. Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go.
Chris, we've had an awesome time talking to you tonight, man. Like we're so thankful to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime, honestly.
No, this was great. We covered a ton of ground. I mean, we started off with sort of like a fairly heady conversation about like gentrification, and ended up talking about hyper specific mods for for Volkswagen engines.
Right.
So,
a little bit of therapy thrown in there, and like, you have our show. Yeah. So
guys, this is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if people want to find your writing, they can go to Car Bibles.
Yes.
Where should people find you elsewhere on the internet? Do you want to plug some of your social media places?
Instagram, Twitter is Chris Has a Camera. I don't use my Facebook. I don't know if you find me. Congrats. But Instagram and Twitter is Chris Has a Camera. You can see my Twitter is a giant shitpost.
It's amazing. This one of you shooting rollers of the Porsche is fantastic.
I was so happy when those came out. Well, I was like, I was hyped because I haven't shot in so long. Like, you know what I mean? But anyways,
you're a great photographer, Chris. Yeah, seriously.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Instagram, Chris Has a Camera, and then shout out to the Car Bibles crew.
Absolutely.
Peter Nelson, Kevin Williams, Andrew Collins. Those are all. We're like one of the best crews in auto writing. I love it. Like, this is cool. Like we work together well, and then everyone at the drive in Brookline, just amazing crew. I'm super happy to be there. Guys, this is a good show.
Right on. Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris, so much again. Dave, if people enjoyed this, what should they do?
Absolutely subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a review on iTunes. Yeah, we'd love to see them, even if they're 1 star, like that dude last week. He wasn't up for our liberal snowflake agenda.
Go listen to Ben Shapiro, you fucking nerd. Get out of here.
But yeah, so do those things. Absolutely follow Chris. And yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, everybody. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.